in the Cork lineup?
Well, I presume that Shane O'Neill's change was enforced, that he is injured and he hasn't got over his hamstring injury. He's going to be a huge loss because he's a very, very good cornerback. Michael Cusson, I'm not sure whether he's injured or not, and it's a huge ask to ask somebody to start his first championship game against that famous Kilkenny backline.
Kevin Fennelly, there's a lot of doubt about Brian Hogan. The word is he's going to start, but what is the word on the streets of Kilkenny?
Yeah, I believe that he's very doubtful. And I was telling my brother Liam there before the game, Marty, or just before the minor game, and he said that he wasn't starting. But if he's not, it looks like maybe James Ryle or Paddy Hogan were the obvious ones to slot in. But then you have any one from 17 to 23, Brian could play, and they'd be all very capable. So we'll have to wait and see, Marty.
What's the feeling in Kilkenny? Because the 4 in a row was a great achievement. Is there pressure on this Kilkenny team to do the 5 in a row?
I don't think there was any more pressure on him this year than last year, Marty. I think last year was massive pressure because everyone spoke about the 4 in a row. There's not as much talk about it in Kilkenny this year. In actual fact, there's very little talk about it, and I'd worry a small bit that maybe we're not hyped up enough this year, Marty.
Really? Well, that's unusual for Kilkenny. John Allen, you're in an All-Ireland semi-final without, apart from the game against Tipperary, not playing that well, really.
No, and we're talking about clutching at straws, really. People on the street are saying, well, it is Cork and Kilkenny. Cork have beaten Kilkenny on occasions before when they were underdogs. But really, all the odds stack up on Kilkenny's side, the form of the team, the strength of their bench, the way they've played this year. So really, we would be clutching at straws.
Bring the ball down into his hand.
It's an interesting Kilkenny selection today because you've got the last 4 captains to win the All-Ireland, and of course it's a significant year, or could be.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about that year, to be honest. I mean, the 4 of them are playing today, I suppose, yeah. But, everybody been out there in the whole 15 and maybe whatever 20, 21 is needed out there, so it's going to be a huge battle for us, but we're looking forward to it.
One man you're missing, of course, is John Tennyson. Now, playing against Cork in the semi-final, he reduces your options by not being there, not being available.
Yeah, for sure. John is a super player. He had a great season last season. I played wing back and came on against Galway, and he had a huge role in the game as well, and he was really flying fit and massively determined. But he's gone now, and it's very, very unfortunate for John. But I mean, somebody else will have to step in if necessary.
The very hot favourites tag, how do you feel about it?
Doesn't come into my head at all. I see this as a massive 50-50 battle. I mean, favourites doesn't mean anything. 2 very good teams up against each other, so it'll be a serious game.
We've had 5.5 matches now, including the replayed Munster and extra time Munster final, but I suppose that was, we were geared up for May for that performance, and I suppose we were geared up for today as well. We've maybe fallen slightly off the wagon in between, but at the same time we lasted the pace of Waterford there from a point of view of physicality, intensity, and just maybe we should have got a few more scores, and we can only have ourselves to blame on that, but we could have easily got over the line in those, and we might be looking at a different scenario, but we're here now exactly where we set out to be, and I believe there's a huge performance in the team again. We've a lot of games played, including the league final and the whole lot. But I think that has to stand to somewhere along the line, and I'm hoping it'll all come right today.
Yeah, a big day for Dennis Walsh, the Cork manager, and changes having to be made on that team, Tomas. Talk to me about them and the impact that they're likely to have on the Cork setup.
Well, I suppose all week, Mike, the big one was about Shane O'Neill, whether Shane O'Neill could recover from the hamstring injury that he picked up in the Munster final, and it was always going to be nip and tuck whether he'd make it or not, and unfortunately for Cork, he's not starting, and he won't play any part, being honest with you, right? So I think that is a big blow, because Shane he has leadership qualities. He's kind of the safeguard around on Cadogan at the edge of the square as well, right? But the man coming in, Shane Murphy, is equally as good a player as well, right? He was very, very good the last day against Antrim, but this is a totally different test, He's coming from Iarn's own club, fantastic hurling pedigree. He's come up through the underage ranks as well, Maybe one criticism that I would have had in the last day was that he gave away a lot of frees against Antrim there, and it just was probably overhyped for the occasion, getting his opportunity and stuff like that. And a big match days, that can happen to anybody, So he just needs maybe to keep a bit more inside today. And I suppose the big one then up front is Michael Cusson not playing, and people say Michael Cusson picked up an injury last week in training, or last Sunday morning in training. But I believe Cian McCarthy has been in Dennis Walsh's head for the last 2 weeks. It's a bolt out of the blue. It's a big surprise. I take Cyril here maybe down a bit memory lane, back to 1986, the legend himself, Teddy McCarthy, who is his father, right? Teddy played his first hurling match here against Galway in the All-Ireland final, right? So that was his baptism to fire, to a senior hurling championship. Cian, if the pedigree is good as was there with Teddy, but it's a big ask. He's a young lad, played under 21 this year, got sent off in his last match in the championship against Waterford, so we didn't see him maybe in the Munster championship campaign. But he's lively, there's a bit of aggression there, and they'll be looking to him to win puckouts because he has a good hand, and that's where he's strong.
Is he good in the air?
That's where he is good in the air, and that's where they go. Whether he plays a centre forward, he's going to have to be good in the air. So it is a big risk, there's no doubt about that, right? But it's one I think worth gambling on, certainly.
Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look maybe in a little bit more depth at some of the strengths and weaknesses of both of these sides. Now, Cyril Farrell here, you reckon the strength of this Kilkenny side is the defensive abilities of JJ Delaney and Tommy Walsh and the way they can dominate things.
Yeah, they're all great hurlers in defence. Jackie Turner's probably as good as you get. But these we're all referring to the aerial power of these guys. This is JJ Delaney, gone out from full back to wing back. Great in there. This is against Galway, high in the air, catches the ball. No, he's not that extra big, but he'd do that all day. Here he is against Dublin again. And again, like, it's a high ball, there's nothing fancy about it, but again, it's a hard ball to be won. Not usually see a footballer in Kilkenny. Now this fella, Tommy Welsh, he's small as well, but small in stature, but big in the air. Watch this, up in the air again, catch out round Dublin, and he'll drive forward. Now he'll do that all day. Every game you go to see play, let it be a league game or a Welsh Cup game, Tommy Welsh is playing. Again, like, he's into drop behind, and if it's just kind of in a ruck, a muddle at all, usually Kilkenny like, well, Tommy again, little flick back to someone clear. Now these guys, they're good in there, so you have to break it down. Now Tomas on about Keane McCarthy, that's why he's probably there. He probably will be on Delaney, and on the other side you're going to have a right duel between Niall McCarthy and Tommy Welch. And I think the chop puck out from Donlogue, okay, but he'll pin them long to tie up the wing backs if he's able and put pressure on them.
We know the calibre of JJ Delaney and Tommy Walsh very well, and we saw just exactly what they can do. But the other thing about it is, Tomas, in the modern game of hurling, if half forwards come back as they're inclined to do off their men, then they're giving guys like this even more space to operate in.
Well, I think that's tactically, that's where Dennis Walsh and his backroom team have to get it right today. We've got to go sit on top of Tommy Welch and JJ Delaney. We cannot afford to give them the opportunity to win breaking ball, to pick up loose play, and when it's been pucked out, I think Donlogue Cusack will have to go along with puckouts today. These guys will have to, the ball will have to stick, certainly from puckouts and stuff like that if they're going up to catch it. But the important thing is they've got to show aggression on these two guys, because they can't afford Tommy Welch or JJ Delaney to dictate things the way they've done in the last couple of weeks. And that is, you're right, Michael, because the half forwards have been drifting out to midfield and those two guys have stayed in their position. Cork cannot afford to do that today.
Yeah. Okay, now, Ger, I think a question that Ger Loughnane has been asking himself, and we're going to ask him now, is the attacking options that you think, Ger, that Cork are likely to use or should use?
Cork's tactics, even apart from that displays of a bit of Jekyll and Hyde about him for us. When they started off against Tipperary, it seemed to have an ideal tactic here of isolating a Saki inside the edge of the square, man to man. Right, he's very hard to cope. He's very hard to deal with when he gets the ball completely in his own. Now, most of the ball was supplied by John Garner from wing back. The puck out to John Garner. Now look at him inside. Even if he doesn't catch it, the corner forward is coming in, and that's where they got the goals from the last day. The 3 goals came from that. Now, what contrast is against Waterford? Look at the low ball inside. Saki hasn't got the skill to cope with the low ball like that. He's not going to be effective if he gets low, slow ball coming in like that. He's no good to him. Now, the last day, funny enough, when Saki was taken off and Cussum was taken off, they reverted to that traditional game of running with the ball, and they looked much better, much more dangerous, and they were much more effective. You know, the two midfielders, Naughton and Kenny, running with the ball, taking on their men, and getting the ball to the man in space and putting it over the bar. Now, much easy to say, easy to do there maybe against Antrim, but against the Kilkenny defence, it's going to be much more difficult. But I just add to what the lad said about the Kilkenny defence.
Yes.
You know, on Tommy Welch and the like of JJ Delaney, what you cannot let them do is catch the ball in there. We all know that.
Right.
But you also cannot let them come back in and cover for their full back line.
Yes.
Because if they do that, you're not going to get any chance around the goal. So you kind of keep them between the 50-yard line and the halfway line. And if they don't mark you, then put the ball over the bar. Take your long-range points.
But
and then hope that something will come inside.
I mean, you saw the clips of Zaki, right? I mean, he has to stay at the edge of the square.
He has to stay
and your two corner forwards will have to play off him then. Whether it's Ben O'Connor or Patrick Horgan.
Correct.
They've got to watch the breaking ball, certainly. I mean,
and the half forwards, Tomas, must keep the half back line out away from
and
them.
I agree with you. I mean, you'd expect maybe a bit of a running game from Cork, particularly in midfield, from Tom Kenny and Cathal Naughton to get through the gap there,
Yes.
and maybe get their half-back line to commit and throw the hand pass inside. That's what you should be looking for.
The funny thing about this Kilkenny team is that, you know, you're looking at stars like in the half-back line, Noel Hickey at full-back, like one of the great full-backs, so on, and talking less and less about like one of the great stars of hurling, Henry Shefflin. I mean, and what they've got up front.
Well, I mean, we're seeing probably one of the greatest players in the last 15 years, certainly 10, 15 years, no doubt about it, right? But the crucial thing, Michael, about this guy is his flexibility all over the field. I mean, when they were in trouble against Galway in periods in the game, Shefflin was inside a corner forward, they bring him out to centre forward, and suddenly he starts dictating things from the centre forward position, throwing balls around, hand pass, and then this is where he's at his most dangerous, right? Getting in behind the cornerbacks, ghosting in there. And I think it's a gameplay that maybe Cody adopts as well. Certainly maybe start him in the wing forward, see how he's working around there. And eventually there's a bit of a rotation. He might go to centre forward for a period of time. He might go into full forward for a period of time. But eventually he'll end up in a corner forward position.
Yes,
I mean, the legs are probably not the way they were over the last number of years,
especially
and
after the cruciate.
Absolutely, after the cruciate, there is a bit of a slowdown.
You're right.
But they love to get him into an isolated position, maybe on one of the weakest defenders on the day, and that's where it's crucial.
Okay, let's get some other opinions on today's game. The views now of some men who know firsthand how keen a rivalry there is in these games between Kilkenny and Cork.